All right. Morning, everybody. How we doing today? Nostalgic Enjoyer, welcome. Rano, welcome back. Had you in the last one. All right. Can you guys hear me okay? I think I have it all working. Let's pray we don't run into... Make sure my headphones are charged. I did not make sure. I was thinking they're probably going to die on me at some point, so we'll see. Let's see here. Audio's good. Perfect. All right. Well, today we're going to be doing some fun stuff in Fusion again, and we're going to be diving into some more expressions, something I get asked about all the time. So why not do it live? Because there was a lot to unpack with expressions inside of DaVinci Resolve, and then that way the people who tune in here can kind of ask some questions about it, and hopefully learn a lot. It's a little bit low. Okay. I don't know how much more I can boost it without getting a bunch of noise. Hopefully you guys are able to turn it up just a little bit, but anyways, let's jump over to DaVinci Resolve here. So the big thing that I want to work on creating today is just some graphs. So like circle graphs and stuff like that. Because I found that those are something that really showcases the power of expressions inside of DaVinci Resolve, because you can use it to save you a ton of time. So let's start with the circle graph as the first one. Let's say we want to do 4 different slices in the circle. And we want to have it animate on, make it customizable, stuff like that. So the way I would go about creating that is first setting up a node that has all of the different controls in it. So let's add in a custom tool. I have my custom tool set up so it doesn't have anything. Oh, look at that. Don't know if you can see that notification, but my keyboard is running low on battery. Plug that in. All right. Anyways, I make a custom tool that does not have any of the default controls in here. I just went through and pretty much got rid of them. And then, which you can do just by going over to the configuration and checking these buttons, or unchecking the buttons to get rid of them. And you can actually right click on a node, do settings, save default, and now it'll always load up that way, which is really cool. Kelsha Design, welcome. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, since we're going to be doing a circle graph, I am going to add in a count control. So if you right click on a node, you can do edit controls, and we can make our own custom slider, text box, whatever that might be. Make sure I'm sharing my screen. Yep, I won't make that mistake again. You guys can see it right now, so we're good. So we're gonna make a count control and come down to, we're gonna put it on the controls page right here. So click controls. I do not want this to be animatable. And then over here, we're gonna check integer. So that means it's only gonna be able to go to whole numbers. So it can't be 4.5. It could only be 4 or 5. So we'll check that. And for the range, let's do 0 to 6. We'll make a max of 6 that we can use. And we'll do the same thing for the allow. That way people can't break it. For the default, I'm just going to do 4. Set this to be a slider control, and then hit OK. So now we've added in a brand new custom control that we can change, and it's going to lock to those integer points, just like so. Happy to see I release a new app. What's the app that I released? But anyways, once we get that count control, now we want to add controls that we can set the value of each one of these circle graphs. So what I'm going to do is add in a edit controls. I'm going to set the name to label, and we'll call this label 1. Come down to controls. We'll put on the controls page. We'll set this to be a text box. Do a text edit control and just set it to be 1 line and not animatable. So I'm just going to hit OK. We'll add that in. Oh yeah, because I'm Mark Zuckerberg. Yep, the Threads app. Yep. I get the joke now. I'm not on Threads. I have not downloaded that yet. But anyways, with the circle graph, we want it to go between values of 0 and 100%, like make it a percentage graph, even if you're not necessarily going to be using percentages. So if we right click, edit controls, let's do label 1 value, controls, do this to be a slider, and we'll do between 0 and 100 for 100%. So now we can put in the value for this. Now, if I ever need to make a bunch of the same controls like this, instead of going through and editing the controls, I like to copy the node and then take it into a text editor. So for example, VS Code is what I use. And that way I can just paste the node in here, and it has all these different custom controls that I just added in. So what we can do, we need to add a comma at the end here. But I could select all these and just paste another one, and then just change the number in the labels. So that way it makes it a little bit faster. So I need there to be 6 of these. So let's do 3, 3, and so on. 4, 4. By the way, Blackmagic added shadow support for USD Infusion in the latest beta. Yep, they added that. The Hydra Delegate Render. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, it's all linked to your Instagram. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just going to stick with Twitter for right now. Alright, change all those. And then let's do one more. So change all these to be 6. So I'm just going through and doing it in the code, so that way it doesn't take as long inside of DaVinci. Then I can just copy that. I can switch back over. I'm going to delete this node, paste it in, and look at that. I have a bunch of different controls, and it looks kind of confusing here. But essentially, we can label each one of our inputs to our circle graph, and then adjust what its value is. So let's start with 4. Let's have the count on 4. Let's actually do it all the way at 6 just to start. And then for the label, we'll do label 1, label 2, label 3, label 4, and so on. Label 6. There we go. And now we can set these to anything. So let's say it's always at 20%. Boom, like that. For the sake of argument, we'll change it up. That way we can notice if the expression isn't working. But all this has to add up to be 100. Let's see, 40, 50, 80. That's already 100. Okay. Let's do it all. 20, 40, 60, 80, 10, 10. Perfect. Deep, welcome. All right, let's see. Did I go to school to learn all about this? Because I know a lot. I did not, actually. I just pretty much, I'm self-taught. I went through the manual, I read that, and then just a ton of trial and error. I knew some of After Effects when I switched over. Like, that's what I was using beforehand. But yeah, just a lot of experimenting, breaking stuff, and then fixing it. Yeah, the corridor guys switched over. That was really cool. They've done some stuff in Fusion. Can I make a full video on macro creation, including label, pages, etc.? Yeah, that can be something I can do down the road here. All right, it's a bridge between the USD Hydra viewport and a USD-based render. Okay. You're actually getting an issue with follower styling and text. I can't use it to make an animation like Vox. Any advice? What's the animation that you're looking to add? Because followers can be really finicky. They can be kind of annoying. Check out my whip text tool in my editor collection. That has a follower built into it right on the edit page. That's how it's easy. And that's linked in the description if you wanted to take a look at that. But let me know the animation you're trying to make, and then we can take a look. Anyways, now that we have this control, I am going to name this. So let's call it graph controls. Something that we can reference easy later on. Wish I had my knowledge on DaVinci because so many short film ideas, but you can't do them. Yep. What's my day job aside from YouTube if I'm comfortable sharing? Yeah, I can do it. I work at a phone store selling phones. Just kind of a part-time job while I work on my video business. So that's kind of fun. Word by word follow upward animation. So I got to do the plug here for my whip text tool. If I drag this onto the timeline, let's say I do Vox animation. Inside of the inspector here, I can turn off the animate of the size, keep animate position on, but then come to the follower and turn that on. So now I can have the start offset be way down, and then I can have it animate up like that. And I have it turned, like there's a fade control turned on, so I have that on. But then you can customize this as to how far down it goes. I like doing a fade and blur, so that way it gives a cool effect like this. And then you can also change the delay as well as the direction, and then it'll all animate off at the end of the clip. So if that's kind of what you're looking for, whip text can do it really easy, and then that way it's a template. Like if you're trying to do what Vox does, like they have templates for all that stuff. But let me know if that's the correct animation. Alright, so we got the graph controls. Let's start working on making this. First thing I'm going to do is grab a background, merge this up, and just set the alpha to be 0. So that way it's not making anything, but just creating a canvas for us to work with. Alright, so now we need to start making those circles. And there's going to be 6 of them. So we'll use a bunch of background nodes. We're going to do circle 1, color. And let's just get kind of the behind the scenes stuff set up, then we can duplicate it 6 times. So we will use an ellipse node, and if we connect this up like so, it's going to create a nice shape. And let's give it kind of a cool, I don't know, like a pastel color almost. Yeah, I like that. Oh, word by word? Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. DaVinci does not have the ability to do a word by word for the position controls, which is really annoying. I wish it did. Hopefully that's something that they will add in the future. If you wanted to do that, it'd be really manual. Like you can just add a text node with 1 word in it, and then animate this one, then make another text node with the next word in it, animate that one. But you can't have it automate. Simon, how's it going? Alright, am I going to leave this up? I will probably leave it up for a little while and then unlist it after that. Also, if you were live and I am here, nobody is keeping an eye on the kids in the Discord. Yep. Which UI do I prefer, the Fusion 9 or the Fusion 16? I never used Fusion 9, so Fusion 16. Because I started using DaVinci Resolve in 15, I think. But I didn't use the standalone because I didn't own Studio yet. How do I change a pivot point for the rectangle mask? Not in the way you would think. I'm going to do the same thing here with the ellipse mask. Let's say I want to have it rotate from off on the side here. You know, you can't really do that built in. What you'd want to do instead is add in a transform node. Just connect that up into the input, the yellow one, and then connect that up into the circle color. And now in the transform node, I can shift the pivot point over and then add in a rotation, just like that. So it doesn't have it built into the tool, but you can still do it. Why did I switch to DaVinci Resolve? One of the biggest reasons was because it was free. I did not like paying for the Adobe stuff, but like all the feature sets in it have really improved. So now, even though I can afford Adobe, I still choose to stick with DaVinci Resolve because I just really like the interface. Like I love nodes. I hate layers like in After Effects now that I've started using this, and it just seems to work faster and more reliably. So they had the free standalone version up to V9. I have it installed on my PC and it's fast and the sliders are huge. Yeah, I don't know why it slowed down because the old versions, the Fusion used to be quite a bit faster. So I don't know. All right, so to create this, if I'm doing a graph, I obviously want it to be split, so I don't want the full circle visible at once. And the easiest way to actually achieve this is to uncheck solid, and that kind of breaks it. So what we're going to use instead is this border width. This is going to set the size of the circle, and this is where our first expressions are going to come in. If we right click on the width control, we're going to do expression, and if we just grab the pick whip, we're going to set this to be the border width. Now let's come to the height as well, do expression, and also tie this to border width. Now I believe we want to divide, multiply by 2? Yeah, I think if we multiply by 2, never mind, I'm sorry. That's good as is. So now if we adjust the border size here, it's going to change the circle, and it's going to keep it looking like a perfect circle. But the really cool thing about this is now we have this length control. So if I drag this down, we can change how much of it's actually visible. And if we set the cap style to be flat, now we have our pie chart to create the circle chart. And we can also offset it using the position slider right here. So just like that. What's my top 5 Fusion channels / sources of learning? Like how I learned Fusion. Like I said, I watched some YouTube, like Casey Ferris was doing stuff at that point. JRTV, Goat's Eye View, some people like that. I know there's some more, but I forget. I haven't watched them for a while. But a lot of the biggest stuff was me just playing around with the program, taking the fundamentals that I knew and looking for ways to expand that. Like, I pretty much took a concept that I wanted to do, like a circle graph, and then I found out how to do it. By reading the manual, just trying different stuff, combining stuff I knew. And that's kind of how I've learned stuff over the years. How do you fix missing preview hover scrub template? Oh, sure. Like when you hover on the templates, it doesn't give you a preview of it. Let's see, is this going? Yeah, it doesn't give you this. You can turn that on or off by clicking the 3 dots right up here and then hover scrub preview. So go ahead and try that. When will my motion graphics fusion course be available? Oh, there's a lot going on with that. There's a lot I want to pack into the course, so it's taken a while. Hopefully soon. And by soon, I probably mean a couple months yet. Liquid fill up effect. Yeah, we can dive into that on a little bit here. It's pretty simple. What you want to use is like polygon nodes, and then just animate it up as a mask. But anyways, how we're going to set this up is we're going to tie this length slider to the value right here. And then, like for label 2, we're going to offset it by 20%. So that way they stack on top of each other and eventually wrap all the way around. So let's right click on the length and we're going to start using expressions. And I want this thing to adapt based on how many different inputs we have. So right now we have it set to be 6. But if I bring it down to 4, the spacing has to change so it all fits. So what we're going to do is take, let's see, how do we want to do this? Trying to think of the way I have to go about this. Yeah, okay, no matter what I do here. So we want to do 1 divided by, and then graph, no, I'm sorry. Is that right? It's early in the morning. Okay, 1 divided by graph controls dot, label 1 value. There we go, okay? And to make it easier so that way you don't have to be remembering what the tool is, if you click on your controls node, just pin it, so that way it's locked up here. And that way we can view both nodes at the same time and use a pick whip to grab stuff. But yeah, this is not right here. So we want to multiply that. And then at the end, multiply by 0.1. I'm sorry, 0.01. There we go. Yep, so we'll do 1 times the 20 here, so that way we get 20. and then we're going to multiply by 0.01, so that way it brings it down to a value between 0 and 1, because that's just how Fusion works. So now it's giving us a value of 20%, which matches what we have down here, and that's label 1. So if we adjust it right here, it's going to adjust up in our view. So now with label 2, let's go ahead and copy this. Actually, real quick, we want to, that'll be on the next one. So copy this, paste it. I'm going to rename everything. Circle 2 color, and then ellipse 2. Perfect. And now if I merge this up, we can give it a slightly different color. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker, I think. And now what we're going to do is take this expression that we had, just copy it, and we're going to paste this into the position. So now it's going to offset it by the 20%. And now with the length, we want to change this so it's, instead of label 1, it's label 2, which in this case it's the same thing. But if we view our, let's go to the media out. Now they are building onto each other and extending around. And so if we change the value of label 1, it's going to change where label 2 is showing up, just like that. So that's where expressions really help to make this so much more simple instead of trying to manually position that every time. How do I make the highlighter effect, but with like a real texture / shape, not a rectangle box? A lot of times in Fusion, you'll just want to use a rectangle box. And something we talked about last time that I want to add to my highlighter effect is, let's say we have 2 rectangles here. Let's connect those up. And you could use expressions to make this easy, but I'm just going to match the height between the 2. And in the first rectangle, drop the opacity to be like 25% or 50%, whatever that might be. And then in the second one, because this will be solid again, we're going to drag this side down, because that way you can make it look more like the marker sitting on the edge. Just like that, and even bring this opacity down as well. Sorry, 7.5 or 8.5. Something like that. And then you can use like a displace node and use a fast noise to drive the displacement. If you set this to be XY, we need some more detail in the fast noise. So yeah, set that to be in the displace XY. Add some variance like that. And then what you can do is even take another fast noise, bring the size way up, add some contrast, bring the brightness down, set the size to be like 60 some. Maybe even more. We also want more detail. And then just, uh-oh. I think I just locked my computer. Whoops. Alright, anyways. There's a button on my keyboard for that. Do -2. I'm just going to keep bringing this down until there's not really much on here. But we can apply this as a mask onto the displace node then, and set it to be multiply by mask and apply mask inverted. Because that way, if we just keep dropping this, we can just add some like little like paper texture to it. And now we have a decent looking like highlighter. So you can fake it inside of Fusion using rectangle nodes. But if you wanted to do an actual one, you'd have to like draw it out and then overlay it. So that would take quite a bit of work though. Middle Lab tutorials, Pirates of Confusion, Ion Software, VFX Study. Yeah, those are all great people to watch too. I like the Pirates of Confusion, he's fun. Hey William Justice, how's it going? William's another channel to check out. He does a lot of really cool stuff with expressions and all sorts of fancy DaVinci Resolve tricks. Today we're looking at some expressions specifically to make circle graphs. So this is what we have so far, and we're just going to keep building onto this pretty much. So the next thing, we're just going to copy this, paste it again, change the names so it's circle 3, because it's really important to keep your Fusion node graph organized, especially if it's something you want to come back to and customize later. So we'll connect that one up. And again, what we're going to do is copy the length here. So copy. And then at the end, we're just going to add it on, just like so. There's always a little bit of a gap here, so we'll come back to trying to fix that. And I'm just going to drop that brightness again a little bit. And this one, set it to be label 3. So now if we check this, we can adjust label 1, label 2, and label 3 all independently. So now I just need to do this a few more times. Let's get all of these renamed here. I think that's as dark as it's going to get there. Let's add on this last final one. And I think it's going to break here, actually, if we set this to be 6. Nope. All right, so for this last one, what I'm going to do... never mind. So we need all of these to add up to be 100. So just to make it easy to visualize, what we can do is just add another control. So we're going to do total value. Set this to be controls, not animatable, and a slider. And now we can just add, oh, I'm sorry. If we want to add an expression on something, it does need to be animatable. I always forget that. And then we run into a glitch where it doesn't want to load. So let's go ahead and restart DaVinci Resolve real quick. DaVinci Resolve did not crash. I'm just restarting it because of a weird glitch. All right, see if that wants to go. Who else is using the DaVinci Resolve beta right now? We have, or anyone not using it, I should say. All right, let's pull that up. So we're back in here, and now it's still not animatable. What the heck? Total value, animatable. Okay, if I save it and then close it, maybe it'll work this time. Can I say something about visual storytelling, like Vox, Johnny Harris, and how to make your workflow smooth, clean, and fast? Like you're talking about like all the little animations and stuff that they do throughout their videos, because they have so much going on. Like they all make really good videos, and that's evident just by looking at their subscriber count. Like they have a lot of people following them. A lot of the stuff that I use to level up like the visual storytelling in my videos and stuff like that is my editor collection. Like that's the whole reason I made it in the first place. Like all the little zoom animations, the text animation, the subscribe animation, everything like that. All right, now we got the keyframe on there. So we can just do expression, and now I'm just gonna add all of these. So label 1 value plus label 2 value, and just keep going. So it goes up to 97.7. So let's set this one to be 16. Set this one to be 19. This one to 23. And this one to 12. So now it all adds up to 100. That's what we want. And now we have a nice circle graph, just like so. And so we can just input all of our values, and like if you have it from a spreadsheet, obviously it's all going to add up to 100%. You can plug all that in. But what we can also do is adjust this count here. So that way we can have it so it hides some of these. So what we'll do is go to, let's bring this all the way down to 0, and on merge 1 we're going to do expression, and if, so an if expression inside of Fusion is 2 i's and then an f, and now we need opening and closing parentheses. Inside of here we're going to do our statement, and then if the statement's true then it'll do A, otherwise B. So it's going to give me an error here, but this is how an if expression works inside of Fusion. So let's go in here and edit this. So we're going to do if graph controls dot count is greater than or equal to 1, then do 1, otherwise 0. And if we hit enter, now this part of the graph is not going to be visible until the count is at 1, or if it's higher. So now we can take this same expression and just modify it. So in the next one, do expression and set this to be if it's greater than 2. In the next one, right click expression if it's greater than 3. And just keep going throughout all of these. Then 4, 5, and finally 6, just like that. So now we can make all of these visible, or control the visibility just with this one slider. Alright, I'm saying like to manage everything folder wise, and also tips for workflow management, preset management, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Yep, I'm not the best one to talk to about folder management. My file system is not the best. There's plenty of good videos on that, but like as far as like the actual editing process, like with my videos, I have all the I had a bunch of presets that I built, like so stuff that I found that I used a lot, that's what I built into presets. So like I always did zooms, like especially in my tutorials I would zoom into my screen, so I built a preset for that. I need subscribe animation, so I built a subscribe animation. Trying to think of what else here, that just all sorts of stuff like that that I use all the time, I would build into presets. So once I had a big library, that's what I built into the editor collection. So let's say for example I want to make a zoom in here. I can go to my generators, come down to whip zoom, drag this over, and now just like that I can have it zoom in. You know, I can obviously customize stuff. I can set it to be continuous, so that way it'll go throughout the entire clip. That's a really popular effect, just the subtle push in. But just a bunch of stuff like that just to help speed up your workflow. So if you find that you're doing one thing all the time, either buy or make a preset for it, because that'll save you a ton of time. Same thing with files, like make a folder structure that you can just copy and paste every time for each project. That way you know where stuff is, you can find it, and it's organized. Alright, anyways, going back to this graph here, now we can change how many are visible at once. So you can do that super easy. And then let's see what else do we want to add here. Let's add in some text into each one of these. So that way we can add in the label. So if I go through and just space these out, you know what we're actually going to do is add in a merge node after each of these. Put the text in coming in the top here. Please check the mic volume level. Yeah, I think it's a little quiet, but if you're able to just turn it up, that'd be great, because I can't really go too much louder than this. Otherwise, a bunch of noise comes into it. See, this is the fun organization process of Fusion templates that no one sees. All right, so we got that set up now. So let's go back to the first one and create it for this one. If we add in a text node, we're going to link this text to whatever we put in the label field over here in the graph controls. So I'm going to pin this like I've done in the past. That way I can always see it. But if we right click on the text box to expression, we can now just take the pick whip and connect this to label 1. So now that text is mirrored. And let's set this to be a light font. Bring that down. Perfect. All right, and then how we're going to do this, we're going to go into the layout, and on the center X and Y, we're going to do an expression, and we're going to do 0.5 plus ellipse1.border width divided by 2. So now that'll put it right in the middle. Just like that. And then after this, let's add in a transform node, and we can use the angle now to set its position. So we can have it go into any one of these. So just like that. And then we could take that even further and go into the text node and apply that same rotation but opposite, so that way the text is still level. And I think we need to go a little bit further out with this. Let me figure out how to do that. Can I make an overall global position control for my editor collection? Something like the motion VFX's global position controls. Right now I find moving the effect quite slow and clunky. How do you mean like overall global position controls? Because like inside of like the whip zoom here, I can only tie stuff inside the template to what's in this template. Like I can't link to something else on the edit page. Because like I have the like just the pivot. Because yeah, I'd like to make as many improvements to it as I can. Make it work. Or like be the best set of editor tools out there. So any way I can improve it, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna divide this by 1.5. That way it pushes it out a little bit more. But essentially, let's undo this rotation for a second. Inside of the transform node, we need to figure out where this needs to show up. So if we do 360 divided by ellipse1 dot right length, that's not right. It's multiplied by, not divided. And then divide this by 2. That way it'll always put it in the center. So now we can go into the text, and just to make this easy, we'll go to the... Let's actually add a new control in the graph controls. And then say level text, we'll call it. Not animatable, make this a checkbox. So we will do expression, and if graph controls dot level text equals 1, then we will do negative transform 1 dot angle, otherwise 0. So now if we check this, it'll level the text out just like that, because what it's doing is applying the opposite rotation that's being applied in the transform node. Now we should just be able to copy this. Again, just rename stuff just to make it pretty. And what I want to do is copy this and paste an instance. So that way, any of the font settings are going to be linked. Because we can come into specific spots and de-instance them with the expressions and change the value like that. The transform node does not need to be instanced. Connect that up and change this so it's on ellipse. Let's see, how do we do this now? We'll figure that out. Okay. So we could come in here, de-instance this. Actually, that one can stay the same. Like in the highlight tool, once I get the desired length, I would like to move the exact length, moving in either the X or Y coordinate, as opposed to repositioning it by moving the pivots again. Oh, so you're saying like moving the entire box at once. So in highlight, instead of having to move both of these, you just want to be able to move both at the same time. Like if I wanted to shift it over, like I have to move both. There is a very good reason why I didn't do that. Yeah, so that's what you want. Yeah, so the reason I didn't do that is because it like, while it kind of seems clunky doing it this way, it makes it even worse doing it the other way. Because instead of doing it like this, the other option that I had, because this is built with a rectangle. Like this is a rectangle box that's automatically fitting to these points. Right here. It's drawing a rectangle. So the option that I could have done is had a rectangle box and had this move around, and you could adjust it like this. But if you want that to perfectly form to, say, a window inside a DaVinci Resolve or something, it's really hard to get those positions perfect. Oh, it's kind of freezing up here. Like, let's say I wanted to, like, as if I bring this over, and like, let's say I get one of the edges right, now the other edge isn't right. And if I try and extend that one, it also changes the other one, so it throws it off on that side. So then I'd have to position this back over, and then, oh, now this one's not right, so I have to drag it down, and it just becomes kind of annoying. So instead what I opted to do is have these two points, so that way you could set it on each side, and you can move one side without affecting the other. So for all the playing around I did, this is actually the simplest way to do it. Because like the other thing is I could have added a third control that just allows you to shift the whole thing, but then that breaks it. Because these values are no longer correct then. Like if I put this at 0, that's no longer going to be on the edge of the screen. That might be moved over. Yeah, so you can, like I could do that, but it breaks it and makes it a lot harder to use then. Like if you wanted to shift it to the other side of the screen, like without changing the values, like you could figure out what the, I guess what you could do is actually add an expression. So that way, let's see, how would you do this? That'd be annoying too though. Like you can move it in increments. So like go on this one, do negative 0.2, and then go down to the next one, do the same thing. Again, I know it's kind of clunky. Yeah, if you have some examples of the motion VFX tools, because they don't have anything like this highlight effect. And all of my other tools are simple like that. Like it just has that global position. Like with, let's see, what's one that I can use for an example. I guess Whip Highlighter isn't like that either, but that's for the same reason. But like my text tools, which Motion VFX pretty much just does a bunch of text stuff. Like this is just a global position that you can shift the whole thing over. Well, that's the wrong one. Shift the whole thing over without changing the size. So I still use that same system. It's just for stuff like the Whip Highlighter or Whip Highlight, it makes sense to use the 2-point system. Please keep the live stream up. Yep, I'll keep it up for a little while here. Yeah, play around with some of the other tools, because like the zoom tools and stuff too have the one position control. Man, I can't talk. The one position control. The only one that has those two is Whip Highlight and Whip Highlighter, and that's because just how they're built and how the functionality works. The simplest way to do it is with those 2 points, and the easiest for you when you're positioning it up. Alright, so now what I need to figure out is how to... So we have label 1 working, but now how do I calculate the angle for the next one? So I think what I need to do is come in here. I should be able to just do ellipse 3 dot right position. Does that work? Oh, that doesn't work. Never mind. All right. So 360 multiplied by ellipse 2 dot right position. So that should put it to be right here. And then add on ellipse 2 dot right length divided by 2. And that'll put it right in the center. Perfect. And then for the text, I need to do the, let's see, I need to de-instance this as well. Oh, de-instance and change it so it's grabbing the rotation from transform 1 underscore 1. There we go, because now I can change if it levels the text or not. Which I feel like in most cases you want it to be level, because that way you can read it. So I wonder though if I can make it so it's if this is greater than 90, it'll flip it so it's the other way. So let's do this. Because I'd want this to be at 180 then. Yeah. So if transform 1 underscore 1 dot angle is greater than or equal to 90, then we'll do 180, otherwise 0. So that way, if it goes beyond a certain point, it'll change, so that way it's easier to read. And that kind of breaks everything, but... Alright, let's keep doing this. So I'll copy the text here, this one, paste instance, copy the transform, paste that, and I'm going to rename this so it's a little bit simpler, just like that. De-instance will change the label so it's label 3 under the rotation. De-instance this as well and make sure it's referencing transform 2. And then a transform 2 needs to reference ellipse 3. There we go. Perfect. Now I just gotta do this a few more times. By the way, to paste to instance, it's Control-Shift-V. Otherwise, you can right-click and paste instance. And I should actually modify that expression, because if it goes beyond 180 is good. Is it 270 something? 180 plus 90. If it goes beyond 270, it needs to flip back. So if transform 2 dot angle is greater than 90 and less than or equal to 270. Oh, I forgot. I have to write it again. And transform 2 dot angle. There. Now it's fixed. Let's use the same thing here, but then go through and change the expression. I probably don't need it in these first ones, but I'm going to do it anyways just so it doesn't break later on. Wrong spot. Okay. D instance. So now we can go in this one, change it to be transform 3. Whoops. Just like that. So now if we have, what I just did there is if we have level text, so if you look at label, like label 2 here, let's take a look at that one. If you watch, once it gets to a certain point, it flips directions. So that way it's easier to read. Just like that. And so label 3 and label 4, that one's not hooked up right. One second. D instance, label 4. Okay. So 3 and 4 have already flipped because they're beyond that point, but eventually they'll get to a point again where it needs to flip back the other way. So if everything's set up right, yep, label 4 flips, label 3 will flip here too, just like that. Even though everything else is breaking. Well, that's what that expression is. It's choosing where the angle needs to be. All right, let's paste a few more instances. D instance, label 5. Transform 4. This one's going to reference ellipse 5 dot right position and ellipse 5 dot right length. And then we need to, whoops, that's not it. Label 4 or transform 4. Just like that. So now that one is automatically flipped back again as well. And then if the text is level, that should still be working. Yeah, no matter what, it's going to make it level. D instance, label 6. This is the last one here. Transform 5. transform 45. Perfect. All right, that's done. Still level the text just like so. And now anytime we change it, it's going to automatically go to the center. Next thing we need to do is make it so that it's not visible if the label is invisible. So the way to do that is just take the ellipse here and plug that in as a mask into the merge nodes. So now if we shrink one down too much, the label just disappears. That way it all fits. And we can level the text just like that. Change the count, change how many we have available. It's a little funky here, stuff's trying to catch up. And I'm sure there's ways I could go through and optimize this yet, so expressions aren't like bouncing back on each other. That's looking pretty good. Like the next thing I could do is go through and animate it. That's a whole nother beast, animating with expressions. You can do a lot of really cool things with it though, especially if you want to make stuff responsive like this. Like my favorite one that I've done is my whip chapter tool. I think we took a look at this one in the last stream. But this one allows you to put chapters or bullet points up for your video. So this is built using a lot of the same techniques as we just used. We can change how many labels we have available, and it updates all the spacings and positions of everything, so that way it's evenly spaced across the screen. But then, right now it animates each one individually, and no matter how many of them you have, it's going to fit all the animations into whatever you put here for the animation length. So 30 frames. So if I do plus 30, it's going to add 30 frames, and it'll be done animating by this point. Now the cool thing, like let's say we go back a few frames, we can change the animation overlap. So if it's at 0, that means they all animate one at a time. But if it's at 1, they'll all animate at the same time. So we can put it somewhere in the middle, and now they're all kind of offset in their animation. And again, this automatically updates based on how many labels we have. So if I bring this down, it's going to retime all those animations, so that way it fits into that 30 frame time period. So that right there is the power of expressions. There's no keyframes in that template at all. And this one, if I'll break it down here on the live stream before I leave here. Yeah, just open this up real quick. I'm just going to get the source file so that way I can show you what it looks like inside. It's gonna crash DaVinci. What's going on here? Yeah, DaVinci Resolve's frozen. Maybe we won't take a look at this today. I just pasted in a huge no graph, so we'll see. If it shows up, it's really cool. A lot of awesome stuff going on. But it has to load up if we want to see it. I don't know what's going on with it. Why it doesn't want to load. I think something might be broken with it here, that's why. All right, let me try this. I'm gonna force close DaVinci. I'm gonna pull up the raw version, and then that way I can get it to work. All right, got that. All right, I'll show this one off here real quick. And I'm just gonna put this in a Fusion clip. So if I paste this, this is the whip chapter tool, but in group form. So if I open this up, this is everything behind the scenes to actually get this template to work. So it's a huge node graph that just has a ton of stuff going on in it. But this is what allows you to, like, again, it's pretty well organized behind the scenes. But that way you can go through and customize all these controls. And I have it all organized so it's simple and you don't have to go through the node graph to find everything. But just like on the one that we were working on, I have like a labels node. It has all of the labels here. And then, you know, I hide certain ones and only show certain ones on the main page. So that way I can show them, I can add in those checkboxes, you know, depending on what we need at the time. I also have the label style. So if I want to change what the text looks like here. Or I can have it be solid, no label, or a cutout, which is what it is by default, so it's transparent behind it. The controls is what has the animation in and out and the animation length. This animations one is super cool. These are all the animations. So you can see each one of these is tied to one of the labels. So this is really satisfying if we, actually if I set the labels to be the max, so 9. And I have the animation overlap control here. So I can adjust this and it's really fun to watch all those sliders change. So then what happens is we have one circle for the entire thing. And then that gets split off into each one of these segments, which is for each one of the labels. So it puts on the text with a cutout, or not cutout, depending on how we want it set up. We also have the label that goes below it. And then the spacing is what chooses where it's going to be at on the screen based on how many copies we have. Then we have two different animation types. We have a single animation and the all animation. The main one that you see is the all animation, and this is just tied to anim 1. The next one is going to be tied to, if we look in this, anim 2. So that way all the animation spacing is correct. And froze again. Fusion does not like looking at this one in the node graph, just because there's so many expressions going on. But anyways, that's the basic concept. So it merges all those up, brings them to the end, spits them out on the edit page, and all the tools are organized really nice for you to use. But I think that's gonna wrap up the stream for today. Got to get going here. Unless anyone else has any other questions real quick. But yeah, hope you guys have a good rest for Saturday. We'll see if DaVinci Resolve responds here, or if we'll have to crash it. Might have to crash it. Yep, look at that. Can't see it now because I'm not sharing, but yeah. Alright, we'll see you guys later. I'll keep the stream up for a couple days here at least. Have a good rest of your day.